All right, everybody, welcome to this week's webinar. I'm so excited to join you. My name is Megan Christensen. I'm the COO for Credit Suite. I'm filling in for Ty this week. He is off at an event for the business, and so I get the joy of filling in. Now, as usual, some housekeeping items. If you do have any questions, feel free to post those. Specifically, I want to make sure everybody can hear me. So if you're having any audio problems, go ahead and put that in the question comment section. And then also I want to make sure you can see my slides. And so if you have any issues seeing my screen, please feel free to let me know. I'm excited to dive into today. I've prepared some great content and I think you guys will all enjoy it. Thank you, Jean, for your feedback. I also want to thank everybody for attending. So we have a good number of attendees. Thank you, Demetrius, Dwayne, Gary, Jean, Janella, Kimberly, and Stephanie for joining me today. And I'm sure more will join us as we go. Also, this is recorded. So if you want to, and Ralph just joined us. Welcome, Ralph. These are recorded, so go ahead and check out the recording on YouTube, the Credit Suite YouTube channel, along with when you log in to our Suite login app, you can see these webinars and play them back at any time. All right, let's dive right in. As I was pondering the topic for this week, now, Jean, go ahead and let me know if you can't see my screen anymore. I just moved it to full screen. As I was pondering this week's topic, I thought to myself, what could I share that would be most useful for our business owners? And it hit me as I was dealing with clients and working with our team. We have now, we have quite a large team, over 70 individuals, or, working with our business owners, et cetera. And as I was working with them, this is something that comes up time and time again. So I wanted to talk about it. And it's utilization. And is it the Achilles heel for business owners? Is this an epidemic? Is it a problem? It's not something we hear a lot about. It's not something we talk about a whole lot, but this is something that's drastically impacting business owners on a day-to-day basis. And so I thought this would be a great webinar topic to really open up the eyes and the understanding of how utilization has this big impact on business owners today. Because we are all in a position where, yes, within our own businesses, we can keep our eye on this concept, but then also in our positions, I think it's our role to share this information with business owners so that they have that best chance for success. So let's dive into this concept. Again, my name is Megan Christensen. I work as the COO for Credit Suite. You may interact with my work on a regular basis. It's the overall operations of Credit Suite, and it's a joy to be here with you guys today. I love to hear your questions, so don't be shy. As you have questions and I go through this content, feel free to ask questions. This is what it looks like in GoToWebinar. Go ahead and post those questions and I would love to answer them. Let's generally talk about utilization. What in the world is it? There is some confusion on it, so forgive me for going basic, but the reason I'm starting here is this is where people get confused. And in the meantime, I've had some additional individuals coming in and join us. I just want to make sure you feel welcome. We're excited to have you here today. So let's talk about utilization generally as a concept, and then we'll be able to drill in further how utilization impacts business owners and how this is a big problem that business owners are running into. So what is it? Credit utilization is the ratio of your credit card balances to credit card limits. very basic concept. So for example, if your personal Chase credit card has a credit limit of $1,000 and you currently have a balance of $300, your utilization on that card is 30%. Pretty simple. But there are ways in which business owners get confused on this concept because there's more details than just that simple math. So is it utilization overall, or is it per card that we need to address? And I'm going to say it's both. So here's a little general example. You have multiple cards and you can see the utilization of each card and then an overall utilization. And this is something that a lot of us see on our personal credit reports. This is something we review regularly. Now, creditors are looking at utilization. It's really important to them. And this is why we're going over this topic, because if it didn't matter to them, it wouldn't impact our ability to help business owners get financing. And this is a big issue. This is one of the most common decline reasons that we see lenders, banks, creditors are giving to business owners during the application process. So we can see a breakdown of an example here of a credit report, utilization per card, and then utilization overall. Now, another factor to this, and this is something that individuals ask me quite a bit, when is that utilization reported? Right? This adds a whole nother factor of complexity. So let's say tomorrow I go and let's just buy something fun today, shall we? So let's say tomorrow I go and buy a Ducati Scrambler. It's a motorcycle because I like those and they're a lot of fun, but I max out my credit card to do so. This is probably not something I would actually do, but this is an example. So I go and purchase this Ducati Scrambler motorcycle. I put it on my personal credit card and I max out my credit card. It has a $15,000 credit limit, and out the door retail, a Ducati Scrambler is right around $12,000. I pay taxes on top of it, and I'm looking at out the door right around $15,000. I put it on my credit card, and with the intention that in a week I'm going to completely pay it off. Now, when is that utilization reported? Is it within that billing cycle, after the billing cycle, and so on? Now, here's where it gets confusing. It actually depends on the creditor and their reporting cycles. So there's an art to it, and I'm not a personal credit guru. I know it to the point where it interacts with business finance, but every creditor reports on a different cycle. And so it's a little hard to be preemptive. Will that week of a maxed out personal credit card hurt my personal credit? It very well could, or it could never get reported. It depends on the credit card company. So that's another factor to add the complexity to utilization. Well, let's dig in a little further because we just laid the groundwork as to why utilization is important. And I know some of you are likely thinking that these are some pretty basic concepts. To others, this may be, you may have already learned something, which is fantastic because I do want to speak to everybody on the call and make sure we have the facts. Okay. So let's go to our next slide. How much utilization do we all have? And this is important because this is going to show the drastic impact that utilization currently has on business owners. So we know what utilization is. We know that creditors care, but we don't have all the facts yet. We're going to go through that today. One of those is, how common is this? Now, this metric, these graphs show how much these generations are using, their utilization. So you can see Generation X, where it's 77%, baby boomers 65%, millennials 79%. Is it an epidemic? That's a big word. Can we say that this is drastically impacting business owners? Absolutely. This is one of the most common mistakes business owners make that leads to declines. And I'll explain more as to why, but I wanted you to see the scale and the scope of the issue we're talking about. So utilization, overall, it's just a measurement of how much of, compared to the credit limit, that a user is using on their personal credit card, and that shows on their personal credit report. So let's dig in. Now we also understand that, you know what, a lot of people are maxing out their cards or using a majority of their credit cards, and we know there's some intricacy that creditors are looking at it per card, and they all have different reporting cycles. So why in the world does utilization matter? Let's think about that. Why in the world are we all taking an hour out of our day to talk about utilization, to learn about it? Why did I choose that one time I get to fill in for the one and only Mr. Ty Crandall? Why did I pick the topic of utilization? And it is because it's having such a big impact on business owners. And this is why utilization matters. It can drastically impact your personal credit scores. And the other factor, which is really important, because creditors care. And what I mean by that, I'm talking about your local banks, your nationwide banks. I'm talking about credit card companies like Capital One, Chase, Citi, American Express. I'm talking about credit cards, lines of credit. The utilization matters because these creditors care, and they're making their decision based on this variable. Now, Gene just put this question. He said, I understand this is important on the personal credit side, but does utilization impact the business credit? Yes and no. And Gene, I love that you asked that question because you're thinking forward, and we're going to go over that today because that is going to be the last 15 minutes of this webinar, talking about how business credit cards impact utilization, and how business credit can actually double, if not triple, a business owner's access to capital, and what that looks like. So hang out there with me because I'm laying that foundation here. Thank you for submitting that question. And if anybody else has questions, feel free to submit those. Okay, so, well, I tell you, Google gave up on us. So let's try this again. So here's the thing, creditors care. And we're talking about Citi, we're talking about Capital One, we're talking about all those credit cards and even lines of credit. They care, and they are saying no based on utilization. And we're talking business credit cards, business lines of credit. Creditors are saying no to a business credit card application based on utilization of the business owner. Now, I am, of course, talking about business lines of credit and credit cards that require a personal guarantee. Okay. And so keep that in mind here. This would be if I'm going for a business credit card or a line of credit with a personal guarantee. But I'm going to teach you guys how to separate that as much as you can from business and personal, and how that gives a business more access to capital. Okay, how does utilization impact your personal credit score? Like I said, I'm not a personal credit guru, but I'm going to tell you because I was a business lender first and foremost from the beginning, and I take that expertise I was able to build and I incorporate that into our programs here at Credit Suite. So how does utilization impact your personal credit score? Well, when I was a lender, I'll never forget the day that somebody slid a paper to me. They wanted a business credit card, and on this paper it showed their personal credit score, and their score was fantastic. Their utilization was terrible. And I did ultimately decline them. So that's just one of many examples of how utilization had a drastic impact. I take that information, that knowledge, and then the knowledge we have now where daily customers are getting declined for a business credit card or a line based on utilization, and I've incorporated it into this webinar. So it depends, how does utilization impact a personal credit score? It depends on the scoring model or which provider you're pulling your personal credit with. I've done a whole nother webinar that talks about how a score doesn't actually matter, that it's the meat and potatoes, the actual late payments, the utilization, the inquiries, the credit mixture that matters. But the score does give you a temperature gauge as to how lenders may feel about your personal credit when they look at it. And so we're going to talk about it in that way. It depends. Utilization's impact on your personal credit scores, it does depend on the scoring model, but generally it accounts for 23 or more % of your personal credit score. Utilization is a great way to skyrocket your personal credit score and make it more and more possible for you to get those approvals with a personal guarantee. What do the lenders actually see? I talked about that they don't actually look at your score, but they're looking at the specific utilization. So as a lender, I would look at, let's say somebody wanted a business credit card, and I would look at their credit report. I didn't care about the score, so it didn't even come up on the screen. But what I would look at is their utilization, late payments, mixture of credit, and I'm looking at also max utilization. Have they maxed out those cards in the past? Now, maxing out a card in the past is not a sure decline, but I'm just trying to get a general understanding of how this consumer behaves. But here's where it's really important. Lenders focus on utilization per card. So when we're applying for a business credit card with a personal guarantee, that'd be Capital One, Citi, Bank of America, American Airlines, those business credit cards, they're going to look at your utilization per card, not overall. And this is where a lot of business owners get in trouble because they do what a lot of business owners do. They max out their personal credit cards and then they come to us with an immense need for financing. But the issue is they have utilized all the credit that their personal credit cards can offer, and it's basically killing our ability to get them the business credit cards, to get them the business line of credit with a personal guarantee. This is so common, it's a huge issue. And I believe that the reason this is so common is we all have personal credit cards in our pockets, and it's a very comfortable, common way that we can finance behaviors. We can finance our business. So business owners, they've got so many things they're tackling, especially when they start a business, that sometimes the easiest thing to do is pull out that personal credit card, right? Or the business credit card, that seems scarier and or harder to get, so they don't want to get told no, and then they don't apply for it, and they just utilize those personal credit cards. It's one of the biggest mistakes and most common mistakes that business owners make, because it locks down their ability to get other credit and their ability to really utilize business credit cards, and personal credit, have those three areas to get financing and have them work together. So creditors, lenders, they are looking at utilization per card. So if I put all my business expenses on one of my business credit cards, my utilization on that card might be 90%. All the rest have 0. My utilization is too high. And it can and probably will lead to a decline, if not at least a diminished approval amount. So that's how creditors feel, that they feel that passionate about utilization. Why do they care overall? They know that from experience that utilization is a lead indicator of default. And that's why they care. Many people often will ask me, why do they care if I maxed out my cards? I'm getting the new card to move those expenses to the new card. But here's the thing is statistically, they have data and they know consumers that or business owners that max out their personal credit cards are more likely to default on the financing. Therefore, they really look at it. It's a rigid factor. Now, most creditors prefer to see, and you can see I said most and prefer because this isn't the same for all lenders. They all have their own underwriting process. Citi, Capital One, Bank of America, First National Bank, they all have their own in-house underwriting algorithms. They're all different, but generally, as a rule of thumb, saying 30% of utilization or lower per personal credit card or line of credit is safe. Usually you won't run into those declines based on utilization if you're in that ballpark range. Now, how can business credit and business credit reports help? I've spent a lot of time talking about personal credit cards and utilization. And I've got a question from Ralph that I'm going to go over. At what utilization gives you the maximum credit scores with FICO? Below 30, 20, 10%, 0? You know, Ralph, I am not a personal credit guru. My focus here is what business credit lenders, business credit cards, lines of credit, what they like to see in order to approve. So like I said, creditors don't actually look at a score. The score is not what matters to them, it's the meat and potatoes. So we find that creditors are happiest when it's below 30%. That's the threshold in which they start saying yes most of the time. Now you can go lower and boost your score, but like I said, creditors don't make their decision, lenders don't make their decision based on a score because there are different scoring models and each lender honestly has their own algorithm on how they want to weight things. So you may want to talk with somebody that's a personal credit guru if you're really looking to get that really high personal credit score. But what I feel like is most important is I teach you how business lenders and creditors look at the personal credit when you're offering a personal guarantee to get that approval, how they look at the utilization to make their decision. And as long as you're below 30%, then you should get an approval, which is what the goal is. Hopefully that helped. If you do have more questions on that or want me to expand on a principle, feel free to put that question in the question field. And thank you so much for asking because I know many others likely have that question. Okay, most business credit cards, here's some interesting facts that are going to add some aha moments to this webinar. And so I want you to listen to these pretty closely. Most business credit cards don't report on your personal credit report as debt unless you default. So let that marinate in, use your entrepreneurial brain and think about that, and then you'll have this little aha moment if it hasn't come to you already. Most business credit cards don't report on your personal credit as debt unless you default. So if I go get a Citi business credit card, it most likely isn't going to show on my personal credit report as debt. What does that do when I can keep my business debts, my business purchases on the business? So it doesn't show on my personal credit report as debt. What does that do to my utilization? What does it do to my debt to income ratios? It drastically improves them. So again, we're talking about this most common mistake that a lot of business owners make. They go and use that card that's comfy, that's in their pocket, that they've used time and time again, that isn't scary. They pull out their personal credit card to start their business or to put all their business expenses because they used it and it's set up and it's easy and it's there. But every purchase shows on their personal credit report. And that debt shows on them as an individual, not on the business. And it messes with their utilization, it drops their score, and not only that, it drastically decreases their ability to get additional business credit with a personal guarantee, which is sometimes the more inexpensive financing that a business owner can use. So think about the power of that statement, that most business credit cards don't report on your personal credit as debt unless you default. Now, utilization on your business credit reports then doesn't have as drastic of an impact as your overall ability to get approved. So on business credit reporting, utilization is not as big of a factor. And so what this does is that means on your business credit cards, they're not showing on your personal credit. They're not going to hurt you there unless you default, and utilization is not as big of a determining factor on the business credit reports. That gives you a lot more freedom. Imagine if I had a $15,000 business credit card that didn't show on my personal credit report and I could actually use the full 15 instead of just the recommended 30% on a personal credit card. It really opens up a lot more doors. So I hope that you have all sorts of bells ringing in your head that just talk about the strength of using business credit cards and using business credit and how that really opens the door to more capital. All right, the next factor I wanted to highlight on how business credit and business credit reports can help is the business credit trade or vendor accounts don't have an impact on utilization either. So that means when I establish my business credit reports, and what is so cool about business credit, trade and vendor credit, is that those accounts don't even require a personal guarantee. So think about that. I can build and establish my business credit reports. I can get that Dell business credit account, and I can utilize that full $10,000 to buy the equipment my business needs. Or I can get that Sears business credit account and get the washer and the dryer and the refrigerator for the fix and flip I'm working on. I could also use my Chevron gas card to pay for my fleet's gas needs, or for the gas in my vehicle as I'm driving around doing various business activities. If you think about how that business credit and those vendor accounts, they also don't have an impact on your personal utilization, they're on the business only, and they definitely don't have an impact on the utilization on the business credit side, your business credit reports. Now, oftentimes when I teach these principles and speak in events, this is when I have half the room kind of scratching their head and they have a puzzled look, almost like they can't quite believe me, right? Because we are taught so much about personal credit. It's something we talk about a lot. We've all seen Credit Karma's funny commercials and the Capital One, you know, how they'll monitor your personal credit, etc. We've all seen those commercials. Their marketing teams are fabulous, and they've taught us a lot about the right ways and the wrong ways to handle our personal credit. We're taught that information because it's so critical on the personal side. What we get very little of, and you guys are in the right place because you're in that place where you can learn about business credit and you can share that information with other business owners. But we rarely hear much about the business credit reports and how those are used and how to strengthen those. And what happens is oftentimes business owners or those working with businesses may make this assumption that personal credit works just like business credit, when it couldn't be further from the truth. I often tell people when they come into the room, when I'm teaching a class, I want you to take and bag up everything you know about personal credit and leave it at the door. Put your name on it. You can pick it up when you leave because it's good information on the personal credit side, but those assumptions that everybody makes that business credit is similar or has these great similarities, it's actually a hindrance to their ability to build their business credit or understand how it truly works. So on the business credit side, it's a different reporting process. And when the credit reports, it doesn't always include the correct balance. They round the number. So I've taught whole classes just on the business credit. I've done webinars on it also, and you can refer to those. I know Ty has so too. We just don't have enough time to comb through a full business credit report today. But when you pull up a business credit report, well, let's just do it. How's that? Let's dive into it, because why not? So let's look at it. Let's look at a business experience report. Sample. Here we go. Well, this is with Equifax. But let's just look at it here. Okay, you should all be able to see it. Now you can see total balance, you can see credit limit, etc. But you're never going to really see it to the penny. And a lot of times it's rounded. And this is one of the factors as to why utilization is not a critical component to the underwriting process when somebody's looking to give you business financing, because it's not an exact science like it is on the personal credit side as to what your total balance is or your current credit limit. You'll often have some fields that are missing where that information is not there. And though, like Experian may put utilization in their algorithms to show a score, DMB doesn't so much have that, and nor does Equifax. And so it's not integrated as much into the algorithms. So when businesses like creditors, Capital One or Citi, when they're looking to approve your business, they're not so much looking at the utilization. They're just looking at that experience on the business credit report. And I think that's important to understand. It's not like personal credit where everything is 100% correct to the penny, or should be, right? Where there's regulation in place. There's a lot of rounding that occurs, and therefore because of that behavior, then utilization is not a drastic factor that creditors are looking at when they look at your business credit reports and decide whether to approve or decline. So I hope that adds some clarity. And like I said, go ahead and chime in with questions. I'd love to answer those. Okay, so we talked about, just in review on this slide, we talked about how business credit cards, they don't report on your personal credit unless you default, most of them. Now there are some like Capital One and so on that do report, and you have to be aware of that. Don't apply for those business credit cards with a personal guarantee that do show on your business credit, your personal credit as debt, because then the business debt is now showing on your personal credit report. The next factor is utilization on business credit reports. It really doesn't have that drastic impact of your overall ability to get approved like it does on the personal credit side. And because of that, more doors are open. On the business credit, trade accounts, vendor accounts, they don't have an impact on your utilization. So yet another form of financing on the business side only, so you can really keep those business expenses separate from your personal expenses. So let's talk about why we all come here, why we love business credit, why we love business credit cards and loans. It's because it really doubles or triples the access to financing that business owners have. What do I mean by that? And like I said, get those questions in here, because I want to make sure that we ask those. If you're feeling a little timid, like you have a basic question or you feel like it's a dumb question, don't worry about that. Throw it out there and let's get them answered, because you're not the only one with that question. And I really build out my content with time to answer those questions. So I'd love to have them in there. Okay, so how in the world then do we take this knowledge and we double or triple a business owner's access to capital? Let's think about these pillars. And for instance, business credit, vendors, trade accounts. Those of you that are here generally know this, but I don't want to assume that all of our listeners know this. So business credit, those vendor trade accounts, those are like store accounts. In even some credit cards, Visa cards, MasterCards, American Express, they can be approved without a personal guarantee. You don't have to give them your social security number and give them that personal guarantee to get approved. We're talking about Sears, we're talking about Home Depot, we're talking about Lowe's, we're talking about Sherwin-Williams, we're talking about a lot of these stores that business owners frequent offer business credit accounts that a business owner can use, no personal guarantee, and those accounts report to build their business credit reports, which increases their options, makes it so they meet the qualifications of the harder accounts to get approved for, and can increase approval amounts. Now, this is completely accessible to all business owners, whether they have great personal credit or not. And that's fabulous news. What's even cooler, the business credit vendor and trade accounts, they don't even show on the personal credit report as debt. Perfect. Let's keep the business debt on the business and let's keep the personal on the personal as much as possible. Remember, that's one of the most common mistakes business owners make. And let's not run into that. Why would we create that hurdle for ourselves? Okay, so we know that's now a solid pillar in which businesses can finance their business ventures. Now, as I've taught these concepts, I've had business owners go, yeah, I don't need anything at Sears. And then as I talk to them and they're fixing and flipping real estate, then I start to ask questions. You mean you don't buy appliances for that house? You like paying for those out of pocket, don't you? You love it. You wouldn't want to use your Sears card to pay for those and then, pay off the Sears card once the house sells. That would be a terrible idea because it would build your business credit reports and give you that history that's going to allow you to get even better approvals. I mean, that sounds like a terrible idea. And of course, I'm being completely sarcastic, right? So oftentimes, we need to spark some creativity in the business owner to help them understand how those trade accounts and vendor accounts can be a solid pillar in their ability to finance their business. So that's that pillar, and that's one of 4 we're talking about. Even some Visa cards without a personal guarantee. Jean said, maybe walk everybody through how a client goes into Home Depot, Walmart, Sears. And that's a great idea. That's probably a full nother webinar, Jean, but that's the power of business credit. So if we get time, I'll go over that, and I love that suggestion. Thank you. Now, another pillar is business loans and lines here. So I'm talking about maybe the business has collateral or cash flow or something that makes the business able to get that loan or line of credit, right? There has to be something that a lender can hang their hat on. Some of those do require a personal guarantee, others do not. But again, if you're just financing your business with personal credit cards, you aren't utilizing these other solid pillars. And so what we're talking about today is that utilization, and we're talking about how it impacts business owners. And the most common mistake a business owner uses is using all their personal credit cards to finance their business. So yet another way for a business owner, a new pillar for them to finance their business. So that could be collateral based, that could be revenue based, and a lot of detail there as we match, and we have our whole finance department that matches up the business owner with the best lenders for them. And that's what they're doing. They're looking to see if they have collateral or cash flow, what it is that makes it so that business can qualify for financing, and then matching them with the very best lender. Then we have this other bucket called business credit cards. And there are some business credit cards that can be approved without a personal guarantee. Now, the business has to be really well established and have some solid business credit history. And I'm going to take Jean's suggestion. And for those of you that haven't been here, look at Suite Login and talk up just briefly about our rounds so that you can see, well, always helps if you put in a password. So you can see what I'm referring to and the power that these have on the business. Okay, so I'm logging in to our platform, and I'm going to the Business Credit Builder specifically. And when I talk about business credit cards without a PG, you can see I'm all the way down here in round 4. That means I've already established prior business credit history. So I'm about 4-5 months into the process of getting accounts to report on my business credit reports. Just like you did when you started your personal credit history, I'm in this process of establishing my business credit history. I've been through the first couple rounds, and now I can get approvals without that personal guarantee. And so I run into, I can get a credit card with PNC. I can finance my car without a personal guarantee here. I can get a MasterCard without a personal guarantee. Sam's Club has a credit card I can get without a personal guarantee. So utilizing this as a solid pillar, these are business credit cards without a personal guarantee, let alone, as I mentioned, these trade accounts, vendor accounts that we had talked about in the prior steps to help finance the business. Okay, so thank you, Jean, for that suggestion. So we talked about these business credit cards as a solid pillar to giving a business access to the capital that they need. So business credit cards, that's without a personal guarantee or with a personal guarantee. Now, when I apply for a business credit card with a personal guarantee, there's some things to be aware of. A, make sure they don't report on the personal credit report as debt. Why? It just kind of broke what we're trying to do, which is keep the business expenses on the business, right? And so we want to make sure it's not going to report on the personal credit report as debt. The other factor we want to keep in mind is, do they report to the business credit bureaus? And is that card the best fit for me? Are they going to give me the highest approval? We're always tracking that data, and we'd love to help any client in that scenario. But those are the factors that we like to keep in mind on the business credit card side. Now, the last but not least, business owners can also use personal credit cards. But I like to tell a client to start here, start with the business credit cards, start with the business loans, start with the business credit vendor and trade accounts, and then utilize your personal credit cards to have these 4 really strong pillars for financing to access the capital that you need to get your business going. It's not a terrible thing to use personal credit cards, but don't use that to finance all of your business. Max out those cards, and then you're basically locking out your ability to get other business credit cards and loans. I have a question from Alan. He said, about websites, do creditors look in terms of qualifying for biz credit? Does it matter what kind of website a company has, simple or complex? Is it at all required? So that's a little different of a topic, but I can definitely answer it. So because I was a lender, creditors look at your website, they do search. Mainly what they're looking for is to make sure that you're in business and that the contact information generally where the business is locating all matches as to what they find on the website. First and foremost, creditors are always looking to prevent fraud. And so if information doesn't match up, then they are concerned. So that's why a website matters. It would be better to not have a website than to have a website that says going out of business or shows a drastically different business location or industry. Thank you, Alan. All right, Ralph, in regards to business credit cards that require a PG, can multiple guarantors get the same card or different card from the same bank? Oh, this is a great question. Depends on the lender. But I will say, when you apply for a business credit card, it is the business getting the card. And the business owner is offering a personal guarantee stating, if this account fails, you can come to me and I guarantee everything will be okay. So if you want to get another business credit card with another guarantor, remember that the credit card company is actually giving the card to the business. You're simply signing on behalf of the business and offering your personal guarantee. If those credit cards, so most creditors have their own policy here. And many of them say, you know what, we're only going to give one credit card per business. And so you will run into that. There are some, specifically if you're working like with Citi or Capital One, you know they have these various cards. You can get different levels. There are some that will allow you to get a business credit card, you know, this type of credit card with this guarantor, and another business credit card under the same business name, but they typically want you to use that same guarantor. Ralph, our finance team can always walk you through a specific instance, but that's generally how that works. Alan, you said, sorry, it was off topic, and I said, and I don't even worry about it. I'm here to answer those questions. And then Ralph said, answered perfectly, thanks. My pleasure. I love answering questions. I feel like that's how you guys get the most out of these webinars. Any other questions, go ahead and put them in there. I'd love to answer any more. Personal credit cards, like I said, this is probably my soapbox moment when I plead with business owners that are on this call and or that work with other businesses to make sure you share this message, which is don't grab the most convenient card, your personal credit card, and max it out, and then go look for business financing, because it usually locks up the doors to this business loan category and the business credit card category. Why don't we start with the business credit cards, the loans, and the business credit, and then go to the personal credit cards? And again, on the personal credit side, you've got that utilization concern. You want to make sure you're at least below the 30%, so that if you have to give your personal guarantee as a business owner, that creditors can have that comfortable feeling that we all want them to feel, that opens up their pocket so that they will give the business the financing that it needs. Let's be real. A lot of businesses fail because they don't have access to the financing they need. It's unfortunate. And that's one of our goals here at Credit Suite, is to unlock kind of the mysteries of financing. That's why I stopped my career as a lender and started building the business credit curriculum and counseling with business owners to help them understand what lenders were really looking at, because it's not something they publish and it's not something they're learning in school, but in reality, they're expected to be experts in it. And that's not necessarily a fair expectation. That's why I love what we do here at Credit Suite. I love that we are able to share this information so business owners can get access to that capital they need. Ralph asked me a question. He said, is it better to build business credit profile with trades before applying for a business credit card with a PG? I'll propose it this way. Here's how I answer that question. I do get that one quite a bit. I recommend, it depends on what financing the business needs right away. If you need a business credit card right now, and you're going to go put that business expense on your personal credit card if you don't have it, then I say start with the business credit card with a PG. Let's just get that done so you have it to use right now. If you can wait, it's a great idea to build your business credit reports with those trade accounts and vendor accounts so that you're building up that history, and what it's going to do to your approvals on the business credit card is drastically improve them. Now, another angle you can take is, let's say you need, or you would like to have your business credit cards right away. You want to get going on this business venture. You don't want to delay. I love that. I'm an entrepreneur myself. Just go for it. Get the business credit cards. While you're doing that, build your business credit so that when it's time to increase your credit limits, you've got this well-established business credit that they're going to look at, and it's going to help those increases. It's also going to help you get more business credit cards down the road. Establishing your business credit reports can always have a positive impact no matter what point you are utilizing it. So to simplify my answer to your question, Ralph, is depends on how soon that business needs financing. It's always good to build the business credit, get established business credit reports, before applying, but if we need it right away, go for the business credit cards. It's better than putting it on the personal. All right, well, we are running low on time. Get those questions back in. Thank you, Ralph. And I hope this information helps. Like I said, this is a great opportunity for me to get to join you. Ty gets to do this all the time. And besides teaching classes and traveling the country to teach it at seminars, I don't always get the opportunity to be here with you all. And I am just so thankful for each of you and the opportunity we have here at Credit Suite to work with you. Gene just shared his love for motorcycles with me. And so I'm going to give him a virtual high five, and maybe one day we'll get to go ride motorcycles together. I love that concept because we all have this big impact on business owners, and I'm so grateful for that. Everybody has a cool story. Everybody's done amazing things. I love hearing the businesses that are thriving or being built. It's such an amazing thing, and it's such a I want to use the word, is it blessing that we have here in the United States to be able to start businesses, have brilliant ideas, and execute them. And I'm grateful for that, and I'm grateful for the opportunity I have to work with each of you. Of course, if you ever have any additional questions, my team is awesome. They just are. We've got our sales department, our partner success team, our advisory team. They are always here. They're literally an email, a phone call, a chat. You can even text message them. They are just right there ready to help you. I get to talk with them on a regular basis, and I just tell you they're some of the coolest people I've ever met. So they are here to help, and if you do have questions, they're willing to dive into those detailed questions. Mainly, we want to make sure there's good information out there, and if there's anything we can do to help, we want to be there. Thank you again for joining us today. This recording will be on YouTube. And Janella, thank you for your kind comments. Alan, right back at you. Just thankful to have you guys on board. Let's all make it a great day. Thank you again for letting me join you. Take care, everybody.